talk a little bit more about the brake saga. So we paid a mechanic in Charlotte to do our brakes and replace our brake lines and stuff. He was supposed to do a comprehensive. We certainly paid him enough to thousands of dollars to make sure our running gear and everything was correct. And that never happened in the way that it should have. And I would say some of that is our fault for not like being more firm and like, you know, insisting that he make it right. And then some of that is just, you know, being life. We're busy and we were working. I was working multiple jobs at the time, and we were getting ready to finish our house so that we could sell it and that kind of stuff. But life happened, right? And so here we are. We've done the brake jobs at home, Andrew mostly, and then we've done an emergency brake job just a couple of days ago at a Flying J parking lot, and they had most excellent.
It was a good space to work, I would say.
Their hospitality was awesome. It was big, it was safe, it was totally great. But now we're here for the weekend, so we are going to do the brake job.
It's a nice day. There's birds flying overhead.
Is it Superman?
No, just birds. Just birds.
Too bad. He could lift Dreamboat.
Yeah.
We are really going to tackle this problem today for the weekend. You ready?
Yeah. I mean,
we need more coffee first. But...
Yeah, and then we got to launch into it. It's probably going to be hotter later, so the sooner we get to getting, we'll be better off. Yeah.
It's all part of the adventure. Come along with us. Please like, subscribe, click that notification bell. We are trying to get 1,000 subscribers so we can monetize our channel, and YouTube will start paying us for all the ads they put on our videos.
Yep.
This is the Napa Auto Parts in Jackson Center, Ohio, home of Airstream. Let's do this.
The guys in Napa Jackson Center really knew what we were talking about, and that's unheard of. Usually no one knows what an Argosy motorhome is. They were super accommodating and really helpful, and they were able to get us all the parts that we needed and work with us to try and figure out what parts we might need further down the road.
To the best of my ability to describe to a guy at Napa what this was doing yesterday, and it was one of those Napas with the mechanic and like garage side, he said he thought that it sounded like the wheel cylinder was bad, but it's actually not the one that's making all the noise. It's actually on the other side, causing that side, the side that's making the noise, to get too tight, too hot, and then I have a whole nother round of symptoms from that happening. When we paid for a brake job way back, it's clear that these weren't replaced, because when I opened it up, I could see that these were old. So we've got to go in there and replace these. And I will say the best advice I got from Napa 50 miles from here was to clamp some vice grips on the rear section of soft brake line. It isolates the rear brakes. You would have no rear brakes. It ran great, except I was still getting all kinds of crunchy noises occasionally on and off from the rear. So I know that everything has gone wrong in this rear, and I'm gonna have to take it apart. Because this gets 70% of its braking power from the front disc brakes and 30% from the rear drums, because I was going about 35, the actual braking I had was much better and much more reliable just with the fronts at those speeds, because the rear is starting to come apart again. So I've got to go back in there and put the rears back together and figure out what's going wrong.
Hello.
Letting out that perfectly good air again.
You know what, this time it's going to be so much faster because we've done it already twice on this side and once on the other side. We're going to be, by the time this is solved, we're going to be experts.
Or frustrated.
We could be frustrated experts. We could just tick both boxes.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's going to be fine.
I'm hoping it's fine.
We had planned to be here all weekend anyway.
All right, once you get them all loose, we can switch to the smaller breaker bar just for less finger pinching potential.
Yeah.
Perfect extraction.
We've had some practice lately.
Incidentally, the blue building in the distance at this angle is where they make base camps, I'm pretty sure. It's a small irony, and there's a big stack of brand new axles over there for base camps, but they're not gonna fit this.
All those ladies out there who do their own work, leverage is your best friend.
I would say that's the breaker bar that I'm happy I have when I need it, but I just hope I never have to use it, because
we've been using it a lot lately.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to keep getting it out. But
it's okay.
It's better than fighting something really more than you need to get it loose. The bad thing is when you tighten stuff with it, you could break things because you have kind of more leverage than you need.
Problem for me is that I don't have work gloves right now. Poison ivy.
Yeah, we have failed to get you work gloves.
And in addition to that, the dump gloves are large, which is fine for dumping, but it's not great for me for dexterity for something like this.
You know, we went to Walmart, we should have thought of it, because it's hard to get you, like in the auto parts store, they don't have
smalls.
You know, like actual small gloves.
Small. Two things. One, we need gear oil.
I bought gear oil.
Because on the road we didn't have any. And when I just broke this, no oil came out.
Yeah, we're slightly downhill and we lost.
Ah, get the bug off, get the bug off, get it off, get it off. Thank you.
Why don't you hit it with the big piece of steel? Shauna is teasing over the little tooth on the castle nut. Well, castle washer, I guess.
Okay.
And now it's time to loosen the castle nut. Show us what that looks like. Yep. And just, it lines up and you bend over the tooth that lines up with the little slot, and then it won't back out because there's a little key on it to keep it from spinning. I do see a little puddle of gear oil at the bottom, which is good. It's slightly uphill on this side, so it's not leaking out. We put it back together last time without more gear oil to put in, so we did lose a small amount of volume, but...
We're gonna put it in this time, so that'll be okay. Yeah, nothing, everything is lubed. It's wonderful. Yeah. Like, there's nothing really wrong.
And then the last piece in here is a little washer.
It's actually easier for me to do it with my fingers than...
Yep, than tools. Well, you have those tiny fingers that fit in there.
I know that this drum is very heavy. It's actually too heavy for me by myself. And if I were by myself, I would put something underneath it that could, when it comes off, I can kind of like drop it onto, whether that's like a quadruple padded folded like moving blanket, or a tote, a crate, something that, because I don't want to get injured. But I'm not by myself, and so I am going to have Andrew help me pull this off. We're going to drop it down onto these rags and cardboard, and then once it's on the cardboard, I can like pull it and slide it away. When I'm not under here, I can actually bear this much weight just fine, but trying to deal with like fine motor and not like ruin any threads or anything like that, sitting like this with this kind of weight, I don't want to hurt my back, I don't want to pull a shoulder or anything like that, trying to overlift and be dumb, because that will affect me years down the road. So I think at this point we're just going to be super cautious. We're not in a hurry, and there's no reason to do anything dumb. All right, I borrowed a pair of Andrew's gloves. I need help lowering it, please.
I'm gonna come up and grab here.
Yep.
And I'm gonna switch back so you can switch back.
Correct. Go team.
Boy, that got hot.
This is a lot of brake dust. And if you look at the size of the wear here versus how much has worn off here, the front face of this has been just grinding away.
I think the whole thing doesn't settle back into the center. I think it stays, yeah, it like stays against the front.
Look at that. You can see the pad all in here, sparkling where it's worn. That's a brand new pad. It has hardly any miles.
Yep. Rubbing permanently against the front.
How do we fix that?
I don't know.
It's just off.
Yeah.
Slightly. Well, let's disassemble. Look at that. it's like flaky.
Does that come off if you touch it?
It does. It's like heat damage or something.
Yeah, that's like...
The coating on it is coming off.
The coating's coming off from the heat damage.
And what is it, less than 48 hours old?
Yeah, less than 200 miles if I remember. Is that right?
Yeah. And see this I feel like is supposed to be around all the way.
Yeah. It was making awful noises. I'm honestly surprised that nothing has fallen apart in here.
Well, let's take it apart. I feel like a piece is missing, maybe, or cracked or something. All right, let's do it. I bet you that's where the noise was coming from. Look, that is a piece of brake pad.
Yep, just sitting on the backer. It must have kind of almost fallen completely out. Boy, we gotta get ahead of this. Okay, e-brake. Give me a little e-brake, okay? Are you working it back and forth? Okay, I see no movement here, so I'm gonna move this a little and then have you move that again. All right, so I'm watching up here, this brake line. Shauna, go ahead. Yep. This is part of the emergency brake linkage, and I'm kind of afraid that if I touch it, it's gonna turn to orange dust in my hands the moment I put a wrench on it. It wiggles like a 1/4 inch. It's just there's so little movement in it that I just don't. Okay, can you do a gentle squeeze of that brake and back off? Yep. There's sort of microscopic movement here.
I was stopping here and it was resisting me.
Yeah, it gets about, to me, the first time I grabbed it, I got about 3 times harder at that spot. Thinking about taking a little tension off of it just to see if I get more more play, so that the rear drum brake assembly can like center itself, because it just seems like it's pulled forward against the front shoe, leaving it constantly dragging, and I don't know if that's right or not. But I'm so afraid of putting a wrench on it and having it just fall apart that I'm not sure what to do. To get this brake cylinder off, there's 2 very difficult to reach bolts on the backside. They're a 3/8 socket. All right, so I've got these bolts loose from the back. It's really hard to get on these bolts because there's no space between the leaf spring and this backer. I had to kind of come up with a couple different wrench combinations depending on how far out the bolt was, because it was jamming my wrench against here. There it is. Okay. Because we have the vice grips on that rubber line, we're not losing any brake fluid here, which good news is I think they look exactly the same. Same mounting holes, bleeder screw in the same place.
That's improved.
Yep, that's improved. They didn't have the pins that go in here, but I believe we can reuse the ones. They're a little rusted, but they don't need to make a seal. They're just pushing in here. The boot is mostly just to keep the brake dust out of them. I am wire wheeling on the 6 points. The shoes need to ride on these 6 points here. 1, 2, 3, and then 3 opposite on the other side. The issue we're having with these points right now is that the shoes being misaligned and having some bounce to them, I guess. It's hard to guess what's happening inside this drum when bad noises are happening, but plates aren't available, and the best solution right now seems to be to try to smooth out these 6 points. More on that in a minute. Shauna has welded a little more metal back on these 6 points where the shoes ride.
So we talked to the guy at the hardware, not the hardware store.
Napa.
At Napa. And then he said the backer plates are
obsolete. Can't get them.
You can't get them. And there was no harm in us filling in the grooves that had been worn with just a quick weld.
Yeah.
So that the brake doesn't ride in that groove and it rides differently. Now they're kind of ugly. You know, we just need the brake not to settle into the groove.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, can it really get much worse than it has been? Probably not. So I started the one on this side.
This angle might give people an idea of just how much fun it is to work, because you can see just a finger moving.
So we've put anti-seize on the backer plate and some anti-seize type stuff on the self-adjuster. It's starting to rain a little bit, but a little water isn't gonna hurt us. We got one brake cylinder and all of the brake parts seated and lubricated with anti-seize on the driver's side. Before we even move Dreamboat, we're gonna take a look and see what there is to see on the passenger side brake.
Should we hit them with penetrating oil? That side hasn't been off in a while.
Be a bad plan.
All right.
Round 2. Ooh, roll it. Look at the bottom.
Oh.
Gritty.
We're not going to film in detail on this because you've seen us do it already once or twice. This is the passenger side wheel cylinder. This should be dry inside this rubber boot. The boot is really to keep dust out. The brake fluid should be in here, and it pushes a piston outward and a piston outward, but it's, in this case, leaking by the piston and leaking inside the brake, which means the brake shoes get covered in brake fluid and don't do anything.
It's about 8 o'clock at night, and I'm hopeful and maybe cautiously optimistic that we'll actually be able to get this done tonight. So you can see Andrew has all the springs and everything all back together. And we started reassembly at 8 o'clock and it is now 8:50. So it took us just shy of an hour.
It's supposed to drop a little, then come back.
I'm not getting lifted anymore. Go check the fluid, please.
Actually, shut it off. I don't know to what degree this might be pressurized.
We met really encouraging and delightful people who were in for service on the spokes at Jackson Center, and it was really nice to do the work and have the support and encouragement.
So I have stopping power that is barely there, and it is at the last, I would say, 5% of my pedal stroke.
Copy that. I believe we're gonna have to bleed some more to get the air out of the rear lines.
I mean, I am able to stop.
Copy that. I would say work the pedal all the way around this little loop here, and then we'll take it over and bleed it again.